You are listening to the Batflip Podcast, a baseball podcast from Belly Up Sports and the Belly Up Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Damian and Matt.
Hello and welcome everybody back into the Batflip Podcast. This is going to be episode number 48. Wow, that's a lot of episodes at this point. I'd like to bring in my co-host here, Damian. How are you doing today, Damian?
I am doing all right. Just trying to survive this California heat with no air conditioning. It's pretty fun.
Oh yeah, my air conditioning has been going out an absolute lot too. I've got a condensation pan filling up, and I've been trying to get the drain pipe unclogged, and it's been an absolute nightmare trying to get it unclogged, and I still haven't gotten it done yet. But I'm gonna get it at some point. Luckily, I can just vacuum out the water when it fills up and get. At that point, I get air conditioning again. But anyways, got a big time show for you today. We're gonna talk about some really cool stuff that happened this week in baseball. The Field of Dreams game that happened on Thursday last week.
Yep.
We have some ideas of future events similar to that. We got some big division matchups. Coming up. We had a no hitter this past week, the number 8 no hitter of the season. Which was pretty crazy. And then we also have some players of the week for you at the end of the show. So, Damian, what did you think the Field of Dreams game this week? That was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was definitely an event that I think it was bigger than I even could imagine it to be. Not only as a baseball fan, but just as a sports fan. I think there was, at least when I was looking at Twitter and a bunch of people that I follow and friends were even texting me like that I know do not watch baseball. They were tuning into this game. And I, like we were talking before the show, and MLB did, we criticized Rob Manfred and MLB a lot on this show. But they actually did a fantastic job on this. This was one of the biggest games. It had really good teams. The game itself was absolutely crazy. And like you were saying, and you'll dive a little bit into it, they pulled all the stops out. They went big time on this game. And it to me, it showed.
Yeah, no doubt. One of the really cool things I thought about this game, obviously, they took a real famous baseball movie, from the 90s, I believe it's when Field of
I think it was
Dreams
like
came out.
89, I believe.
89. Okay, so it's the late 80s, early 90s,
Yeah.
which but it's a super famous movie. It's a classic, and they took this and they made an event out of it. They went out and out of basically a cornfield in Iowa, they made a stadium, and it was really cool. They had the players walk in through the corn in the outfield behind the fence. At the start of the game, they had um, a pretty good crowd there. They put in bleachers. I think they had about 8,000, if I'm not mistaken, was the attendance. At least that's what I read online. I don't know if that's the actual attendance or not. But we had and they had two great teams facing off. And I think the coolest thing about it was the fact that they had such a good turnout TV wise. This was the most watched regular season baseball game in 15 years, and I believe that since the Barry Bonds home run chase for the record. So that's really significant type of TV ratings. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Obviously, people thought the event was going to be cool, but I think the promotion of it had a lot to do with that as well.
Yeah, it absolutely did. And, they brought as much people, people are going to have different opinions on Joe Buck, but like they brought their number one team out to this game. It's a primetime game in the middle of the week. It had the best announcers, the MLB can throw at it. It had two really good teams that are both, contending or name value wise. I mean, you don't get any bigger in baseball than the Yankees, and the White Sox have been one of the best teams, and they're one of the funnest teams to watch throughout the year. I mean, we've talked about it, the energy they show and everything they bring to the table. I don't think that there was, at least so far this season, there probably wasn't two better teams to kind of match up wise, because you had probably the most fun team in baseball with the biggest name team in baseball, and they provided a fantastic game. I mean, it ended up being 9-8, and it was just a home run party pretty much.
Yeah, and I think that was the biggest thing was that they pulled out all the stops for it. They had they're like you said, their A team, and the weeknight game. I mean, and it being on network TV too. You have a lot of MLB Network weeknight games, Fox Sports 1 weeknight games, ESPN weeknight games. But honestly, I don't even know when there's a game on Fox Sports 1 because they never advertise it. Uh, ESPN advertises Sunday night baseball fairly well, but they don't really. They do advertise their weeknight games, but not as well as Sunday night baseball. And then you look at MLB Network, and you're not going to really see that unless you're actually watching MLB Network. There is a game there pretty much every night, so it's one of those things where you had the A team out, everybody was in, and that's an intriguing game. The White Sox had one of their aces on the mound. They got three aces, but they had one of them on the mound. And you're looking at a team that, now that they're healthy, might be the best team in the American League, facing off against the Yankees, who are in the middle of a chase for making the playoffs. So um, and like you said, an entertaining game. You had a 4-run ninth inning from the Yankees with behind home runs from Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge to take the lead, and then back in the bottom of the ninth, you had the White Sox win it on a walk off home run from Tim Anderson, and what was just an electric moment. He's an electric player. That was an electric moment, and I just thought it was fantastic for the game, but and it begs the question, since that went so well, what could they maybe do in the future, as in, trying to do events similar to this? Because I think this is a great way to build up the sport of baseball.
Yeah, so one thing is that they did already announce, I believe it was actually yesterday when they actually confirmed it, but there will be another Field of Dreams game next year. That's going to be, I forget the actual date, but it's going to be in August again. It's going to be Reds versus the Cubs. It's just going to be one game again. Maybe potentially down the line they look for an actual series at the Field of Dreams field. But we kind of were brainstorming before the show, and they had a Fort Bragg game one time. We'll talk in a little bit. They do the Little League Classic game where they go to the site of where the Little League World Series is being played, and they have a Sunday night baseball game there. They've done some Australia games, some Japan games. Maybe we were talking about maybe a Hawaii series. Not really, doesn't make sense to do a one game over there, but maybe they set up a 3 or 4 game series to kind of start the season. They've done that with how they did in Japan and in Australia before. Hawaii would seem probably like one of the best bets if you really want to make another big time jump. That would probably be one of your biggest moves to make.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, they also didn't they have a London series a few years ago?
Possibly, I don't
I think I
remember.
remember them. I think I remember because they had so many home runs in that game, it was ridiculous because the field was just built small. But
Yeah.
anyways, either way, I do think it's a great way to bring baseball to new places. And obviously Iowa's a big baseball state anyways, being, in the Midwest. And, there's a lot of Cubs fans in Iowa, a lot of Brewers fans in Iowa, a lot of Cardinals fans in Iowa. So it's not like they're too far from baseball, but it's one of those things that, like, I thought it was really cool that, they hit a home run. I think it was Jose Abreu who hit the first home run of the game, like in the first inning. It was the first home run ever hit in the state of Iowa. And you would
Hmm.
never sit there and think of that like, wow, that's pretty cool. And you have so many games on the East Coast, like actually on the coast. In New England and in the Southeast, you have games in the Upper Midwest, like Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, Milwaukee. But there's not all that much in the central part of the country. You have Kansas City, but like you think about like Oklahoma, Nebraska. Nebraska hosts the College World Series. That would be a really cool place to maybe have a game like on that venue at the College World Series, like the day before the series starts. You have a game. Maybe the Royals can, maybe one of their home games can go there or something. Like that way, you don't have to travel too far. It could be a one game thing, but you could, kind of expand a little bit and to reach, different place so people can go enjoy a game. I think Hawaii would be a really cool one. Of course, you're probably not reaching out to too much of a market out there, but it would be a cool one to have. There's a lot of times you've had like the Pro Bowl for the NFL was out there for so long, and kind of being a treat for the players to go out to Hawaii and stuff. Um, they've had Mexico City games. They had the Puerto Rico games. I think it'd be cool to maybe for them to play a South American game too somewhere. I know that Venezuela is such a big baseball country, but they do have a very, very, very large political issue and like a civil war going on there. So it'd be really tough to play there. But maybe somewhere else in South America, like Colombia, or maybe even like a Brazil or something, you could try to expand the game there, and then obviously Europe as well. But um, I think it was really cool. I think it was something that I think that there's the promotion and the ability to have two really great teams went so well there. And you know, for next year's game, the Cubs and Reds, I think that's a step backwards, because I think it's best when baseball shows off their best teams, their most exciting teams on that national stage. We have a lot of games this time of year in baseball, the way the schedule sets up, where it's two pretty average teams, or one good team and one bad team playing against each other in those primetime games, like Sunday Night Baseball or something. And I think it would be a lot cooler, because the Cubs are going to be bad next year, and I think it would be a lot cooler if they had a couple of really good teams in a pennant race in that game. So, um, but hopefully we get more of this type of thing in the future, and that would be pretty great for sure.
Yeah, it absolutely would be. And let's use that as a little tie-in to this little league classic game that's going to happen on Sunday. Between the Indians and Angels. I believe they've done this. But this is going to be the 6th year or 7th year. I don't know exactly.
They've done it for at least a few years. So
Yeah, I do. I believe I remember one year. I think Jose Fernandez was there still. Maybe I'm thinking of a different game. But anyways, this is a really cool opportunity. It helps the game not only grow, but also it allows them to go and be with the little league kids, and kind of be a little more of a role model, and how cool of an opportunity that is for those teams to see a major league game, interact with the players. It's not like the players are just there for the game and then they leave. Like, they actually interact with these clubs, they interact with these players. And this is I think it's a really cool tradition that they're starting, and that the little league players can actually see how these big leagues players play, basically exactly where they're playing. Obviously the field, I mean, it would be fun if they played on the little league field, wouldn't it?
I don't know if that'd be fun.
No, I think it would be, but
anyways, yeah, this would be a really cool. This is gonna be cool too. It does kind of go back to my whole thing, like you said. It's the Indians and the Angels. So
yeah,
I mean, the Angels have enough star power to make it work. Ohtani playing there and stuff. But that's another one that's kind of like, well, it'd be a lot better if like the Yankees played the White Sox there or something. But obviously these things are determined before the season, so they can't just pick that out. But it'll be a cool event, a cool game. Um, I think that it's one that it is important to continue to stretch that bridge to the little league baseball from big league baseball. You've had a lot of that's what builds the game. Kids getting into it, kids enjoying the game, and being able to have these kids watch the big leaguers, meet the big leaguers, and I think that's a really big deal. So, and it helps the game immensely to have that type of thing. So, good for Major League Baseball keeping that up, and like we talked about a minute ago, I'd love to see more of it. More events like this. Especially maybe good teams that don't have great attendance, like the White Sox. The Rays would be another perfect team for some of this stuff.
yeah.
Good team, exciting. They don't have great attendance. You can take one of their home games and move it to somewhere, and or a home series even for the Rays, and it would be really cool to see. So we'll see what happens with it. I think I think it's a possibility that this is a good way to grow the game. And hey, like we talked about earlier, props to Major League Baseball and Rob Manfred and everybody there to for doing this event and putting it on, because it's definitely something out of the box, and it was something really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. um, let's go ahead and transition over now to the no-hitter that we had thrown this week, and that was by rookie left-hander, I believe, Tyler Gilbert of the Arizona Diamondbacks. This was actually his first career start in the Major League Baseball, and he throws a no hitter against the San Diego Padres. He had 3 walks, 5 Ks, threw 102 pitches. The interesting thing that I really found out today when I was looking more into this is that he gave up 13 balls hit over 90 miles an hour.
Yeah, this was hey, you know what? I'm not gonna bash it because it was a no hitter, and that's so cool. First career start no hitter. Um, Now it was one of the luckier no hitters we've ever seen. Um, it's just one of those things that we had a lot of hard hit balls, um, go right at people and everything. But just what a cool event, what a cool thing. The Diamondbacks have had absolutely nothing to cheer about this year. I mean, they have been completely horrible. But you know, it's very cool to see that happen. And you look at the fact that that this is a 27-year-old who's bounced around a lot. Um, I think he's not even in fact he was Fangraphs number 47 ranked prospect. So it's not even a this guy's not really even thought about as a top prospect. Nothing really, and his hardest pitch was 91 miles an hour in the game. Obviously, it's just cool. This is entirely possible. This ends up being one of the one of the big events of his career, and forever, as Tyler Gilbert kid's going to be able to say, he threw a no hitter in the major leagues. Um, but it was also only the fourth time anybody's ever thrown a no hitter in their debut as a starter, and two of them were before 1900. So. Um, Oh, sorry. It is only the third one, and one of them was before 1900. So the most recent one was in 1953. So there's something that's just never happened. I think we had one a few years ago. I think it was Ross Stripling, and it was in
Yeah.
his debut. He took one almost to the end, didn't he? Or he got pulled in the middle of a no hitter. Was
Yeah,
that
he
it?
got
In his
he
debut.
got he got pulled. I believe it was in the 6th inning, or after 6 is when he got pulled. I think it was in his debut as well, but that was because they
High
were
pitch count, but
well, and he had just come off Tommy John surgery like a year before or something, so they didn't want to stretch him or whatever. That's the reason that they said, at least.
right.
But the one interesting thing is that this was the first no hitter since the breakdown or the crackdown on sticky stuff. Once that kind of all stopped, even the threats of no hitters kind of had went away. I mean, you really hadn't seen anybody really take one really deep into a game, and then Tyler Gilbert, comes out and throws this one. And so it is pretty interesting that maybe that had. I mean, we obviously knew it had a big impact on the game, but I mean, we had what set like you said, this is the 8th, so we had already had 7 no hitters and not one since that crackdown, which was what, in early June.
Yeah, yeah. So it was the end of May, or the end of May, started June that they had the crackdown. And this article on the Ringer was talking about it and saying that they have, the batting average is up 12 points around the league since the crackdown. So you talk about it going from 236 to 248 since the crackdown, and I think that goes to show you that that crackdown really did change things in a lot of places. So definitely interesting. Obviously, and I do think that the Davies no hitter slash combined Cubs combined no hitter against the Dodgers was after the crackdown, but that one was combined no hitter. It was really weird, so it's almost hard to even count that. But yeah, we had Tristan McKenzie too this week with the almost perfect game. So that was another one that was similar. So, but anyways, this was really cool. And Tyler Gilbert, man, he'll remember this forever. There's a lot of guys that their career highlight. I don't want to talk too bad about him, like he's not going to be good. He might end up being great, but you know, you had Chris Heston and Philip Humber, and
Yeah.
a lot of these guys you remember for their no hitter.
I mean, look at the career that Dallas Braden has pretty much made out of his no hitter that was on Mother's Day.
Yeah, it's a perfect game,
It
but
was a perfect
yeah,
game.
and Humber was a perfect game too. But still, like a lot of these guys, you only remember them for throwing no hitters, and that's something. Kent Merker was the last Brave to throw a no hitter. I don't think anybody would remember him if it wasn't for the no hitter. So it's one of those things that, hey, Tyler Gilbert's forever in the record books, and that's really cool for him.
Yeah, won't be able to ever take that away from him for sure. But one thing that we kind of mentioned that we wanted to do last week and kind of ran out of time, so we kind of want to hit a little bit more on it this week, is we want to start kind of talking about series of the week that we have. We're going into this stretch run. There's going to be a lot of high profile games that mean a lot within the baseball standings. Maybe not what head to head what they mean, but what they just mean in the general concept of the standings. But so far, during this week, at least, we have the Yankees and the Red Sox. They're actually playing a doubleheader right now. The Yankees won the first game, and I believe they're leading right now 2-0 in the bottom of the sixth. So if the Yankees win that game, I believe you said that they tie the Red Sox in the division.
Yes, if the Yankees beat the Red Sox tonight in the second game, they will be tied in the division. At and the Red Sox will have played two more games than the Yankees still, but they will be tied in the division. They will be. It appears because the Rays are up 7-0. It would appear they would be 5 games back of the Rays. So that would be a big deal, and I think they have two more games to play, maybe one, but I think it's two. So um, Yankees Red Sox for two more games, and um, I believe one of them is televised on ESPN tomorrow night, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So, but there'll be that's a big series right now going on. Like you said, the Yankees were up in Game 2 of the doubleheader. I believe it was 2-0 last check, but it might have changed by now. So,
No, I
but
just
yeah,
I just looked right now.
okay, still 2-0 in the sixth. So that they're going to the Red Sox have one more chance on top of the seventh because it's a
Mm-hmm.
7 inning doubleheader game. But yeah, so this is a big deal. Not only would that put the Yankees in second place and be the primary challenger to the Rays, or tied for second, it would also put them in a tie for the second wild card spot.
Yep.
Um, or yeah, actually yes, second wild card spot because I think they would be like a half game behind the Oakland A's. So good for the Yankees. They've really played well since the break. We kind of figured they would. Um, after having their making those big trades for Rizzo, Joey Gallo, Andrew Haney. They went out and got some guys that were playing real well at the break. So um, they've been good since then, and I look for it to continue. But we'll see. It's a big series this week.
Yeah, another big series that we have is the kind of a team you just mentioned, which is the Oakland A's, who are sitting at the top of that wild card spot, but they're really close. They're tied with the Red Sox right now, and the Yankees are just one game back, so they'll pretty much all be tied depending on what the A's do tonight. But they're facing the White Sox this weekend, which we've talked about how good the White Sox are so far this season, and actually the White Sox are beating the A's 5-0 right now. Um, yeah, so I think they have two more, if I believe they have. Yeah, so they play
Yes.
two more after tonight. Um, so it's going to be a big series for the A's, battling for that wild card. And then not only that, but this weekend the A's go home to play the San Francisco Giants. So they have a big kind of week right here going in. First place team in the White Sox, the Giants, who record wise are the best team in baseball right now, and the A's face them back to back. And fighting for that wild card spot.
Yeah, the A's need to at least pull a couple games out of this. This is the toughest stretch of their schedule remaining. Uh, playing these two great teams. I really think the White Sox are the best team in the American League right now. Now that they're healthy, they battled injuries all year. To a couple of their big bats and Luis Robert and Eloy Jimenez, and ever since those guys got healthy, Eloy's been on fire, and Luis Robert hit a home run tonight, I think. So they've been those two guys are a big deal, and Tim Anderson's also a guy that's battled injury at times this year, and he's fully healthy right now. So they've gotten healthy, and the A's need to salvage a couple games this week. I mean, they're trying to hang in there. Obviously, the Yankees and the Red Sox have tough games remaining. Um, I don't think the Mariners are going to catch them in 5 games behind them. So the Blue Jays are still there, could maybe catch them if the Blue Jays get hot again. But the A's are they need to pick up at least a couple games the rest of this week, and then go on. And I don't know what their remaining schedule looks like after this week, but these are big games for them for sure.
Yeah, and then one more series that we kind of just wanted to highlight this weekend, and that was the Phillies and the Padres. The Padres have been on a real slide lately. They're 5-5 over the last 10, but they've now fallen to 11 games out of that NL West battle. And they were a team that we thought were probably going to challenge the Dodgers for that division. I mean, nobody expected the Giants to be this good, but now they've fallen. Not only kind of out of the division race. I mean, I don't think there's a real shot that they ever are back in that division this year, but they're only a game and a half over the Reds in the wild card spot. So they really need a big series this weekend against the Phillies. But on the flip side, the Phillies are a team that, they've now lost the division lead to the Atlanta Braves, and they're a game and a half back as of, recording this, of the Braves. They struggled this past week against the Dodgers, and then I don't know who they played over this weekend.
They won 2 out of 3, I believe, against the Nationals. If I'm not, I think
Okay.
they won 2 out of 3 against the Nationals or
Okay.
something like that. It was the Reds. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Reds.
Okay. So see, yeah, that means they've lost. They
Yeah.
lost what? They lost 4 out of 6 over this week compared to the Reds and the against
I
the
think they
Reds and the
lost 3
Dodgers.
games this past week. But either way, they had one game lead over the Braves coming into a couple weeks ago, and that's flip flopped to, or they had a 2-game lead over the Braves as part of last week, and that's flip flopped to a 1.5-game lead for the Braves, who are leading in the ninth inning right now. So, it could be 2 games before the Phillies get started tonight. And they need to keep pace against the Diamondbacks for the next 3 games, which, if you're a Phillies fan, you would hope that they would beat the Diamondbacks. But then this weekend, the Phillies need to keep pace with the Braves, who have an easy schedule this week with the Marlins and Padres, with the Marlins and the Orioles this weekend. And obviously, you go to the NL West, the Padres have got to win some of these games because um, they have been really struggling, and they are. They've got Tatis just came back, but he's playing outfield. I was gonna question how healthy he was until he hit 2 home runs in his
The
last game, in his
in the
first game
game he
back.
returned, yeah.
Yeah, but how is he going to play in the outfield? But I'm more worried about the Padres pitching staff right now. Darvish going on the IL. Snell's been bad. Musgrove got lit up the other day. Um, I do worry about the Padres pitching staff a little bit. But we'll see what happens with them. I think that they, are probably still the favorite to be that wild card team, but the Reds have such an easy schedule remaining. They play a lot of games against the Cubs and the Pirates, so that's almost like the Cubs are an automatic win right now. They've lost 12 games in a row, so and they're playing the Reds tonight. But either way, I look at that as I worry about the Padres, and they got to win some of these games. Like, it's going to be tough. They got how many games they have left against LA? Like 9 or something.
9.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they're going to have to win. Now they played LA really well this year, but you would think they'd have to win at least four of those games, and then out of those 9, and then they got to take care of these teams that are kind of good but not great teams like the Phillies. They got to beat some of these teams. That's been their strong. That's been their problem this year. They haven't beaten these types of teams. They played the Dodgers really well. They've played the Giants well. They have not played these kind of mid pack teams very well at all.
So
So
they also, speaking of that, so you said they have 9 against the Dodgers. They have what, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games left against the Giants.
yeah,
Um,
so it's a big deal for the Padres, and they're losing to the Rockies right now tonight, be it
yeah,
only in the second inning at Coors, but still.
and they
Um,
lost to them last night.
Yeah, so if you're the Padres, you got to be worried. You made a lot of investments into this year's team, and you've got to make the playoffs. You cannot miss the playoff. If you lose the division to a great Dodgers team, that's one thing. But losing the division to a Giants team that was expected to be a roughly 500 team coming into the season, and not even making the wild card against to like a Reds team, or the second place NL East team is not really that far behind the Padres either. So, the Phillies could win 3 in a row against the Padres this weekend and be ahead of them.
Yeah.
Depending on how the schedule goes the next couple days, at least tied in the loss column at the very least. So, I think I look at this as an opportunity for the um, for the Phillies to really help themselves, the Reds and the Braves potentially, because the Padres are a struggle right now.
Yeah, and just kind of looking more into this Padres thing, the Cardinals aren't that far back. Even I mean, they're even above the Phillies right now in the wild card. They went 8-2 over their last 10. They still have another series against San Diego in St. Louis for 3 more games.
Yeah,
So the Padres, I know the Cardinals aren't as as good of a team as they probably are playing at right now, but it just adds to this thing that the Padres schedule to finish out the rest of the season is really really
man, they
tough.
got 19 games against the two best teams in baseball. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
that's
that's not including games against the the Phillies who they're going to have to beat, the
yeah,
Astros that are coming up.
they got 3 games against the Braves
Yeah,
plus a suspended game that's a 1-run game in like the 5th inning.
yeah,
So
and then you got the Cardinals. I mean, you're talking about all team. You're talking about what? I mean, upwards of 20 games, 25 games that are against teams over 500. So there, there is actually a real possibility that the Padres, especially as depleted as that pitching staff is right now, losing Darvish is now on the IL. Musgrove he's been good. Snell has been hit or miss recently. He's been a little bit better than he has not. But Chris Paddock, I mean, he's not good at all. They just signed Jake Arrieta, who's been
yeah, that's not going to go
terrible.
well.
Um,
They're going to put him in AAA and hope that he finds something to help him.
no, he's starting tomorrow.
Really.
Yeah, in Coors.
That's gosh.
Yeah, he's starting in Coors
So
tomorrow. That's how bad their pitching
if you're
staff
a
is.
Padres fan, you hope that Jake Arrieta is pitching a spot start, then you can DFA him, because that you do not want Jake Arrieta to be on your rotation on that team right now, needing a win, needing a chance to win every single day. Because he was abysmal with the Cubs, and I mean, I don't know if they see something in him that
I think they just
maybe
see
can
that.
fix, but
I just think they see that, hey, we have a big ballpark, and maybe
yeah,
that also, like, we just need anybody who can throw the ball right now. Like, that's honestly what I think. I don't know why they haven't called it Mackenzie Gore yet.
yeah.
Because I mean, I think he'd be a better option at this point. But hey,
Yeah, that's an
who
interesting
knows?
thought. I think I don't think Mackenzie Gore's been that good in AAA though this year. If I'm not
Well,
mistaken, I haven't checked him out in a while, but
I would rather take the risk on, hey, is Mackenzie Gore
yeah.
rather than we know
Well,
Jake Arrieta has been terrible in the
yeah,
majors.
he's only thrown 20 innings this year in AAA. So I mean, I don't know. He's got a 6 ERA in AAA in 20 innings, and I think he's injured anyway. So
Is he injured? He
I
might
think so.
be.
So I mean, it's it's one of those things that I'm definitely of the opinion that when you build a team, you've got to have a lot of depth. And the Padres built their team out of getting some stars, and they just don't have the depth. I mean, you look at the Dodgers, and they've been able to run out guys like David Price that come out of that can David Price as a spot starter. I mean, he's not great anymore, but he's okay. They've got guys, in AAA. They got guys like Tony Gonsolin that can come in as a kind of a sixth starter type right now. And when they lose a guy like Dustin May or Kershaw for a little bit of time, they got people who can start in their place. Um, you look even at some teams like Atlanta, they've had guys come up all year. They've had about 7 guys start a lot of games for them. You look at the Mets. They've had ravaged pitching, and they brought up Trevor McGill, and he's been really good. It's really been a case of depth in the pitching department. So it's going to win you a lot. And the Padres, sure, they went out and they got multiple guys who have at times pitched like aces, but they also, when 2 of them get hurt over the course of a season, or at least just wear down some, you know, your pitching staff's gonna be pretty thin. I mean, they just don't have that much behind them in the way of major league ready guys who can come out and start. So, we'll see what happens. I do still think the Padres make the postseason. I think there's just too much talent there, especially on the offensive side. But hey, they're giving teams like the Reds, whoever finishes second in the NL East, maybe even the Cardinals. I had no idea the Cardinals were had come back to the record they have right now. So they're giving these teams an opportunity right now.
Yeah, how different would we be feeling about the Padres right now if they had actually completed the Max Scherzer deal?
Um,
Like,
I mean,
at,
I'd feel more confident in them making the wild card, but I still don't think they would be a
well, I'm not
threat to
talking
the
about
Giants or Dodgers.
no, not for the division, but I mean, right now we're looking at them like they signed Jake Arrieta. They're losing you Darvish. Now, if you had Max Scherzer on that, you could just be like, okay, well, at least we have that guy who can help save us a little bit. Um, but when they didn't do anything at the trade deadline, really, besides Daniel Hudson and Adam Frazier, it'd be a complete different look at the team. I think if you had actually pulled off a Max Scherzer or even a Jose Barrios deal, just somebody
Yeah.
that could come in and be another kind of innings guy for you. I mean, obviously those guys are both better than innings guys, but you kind of get the point of what I'm shooting for there.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, I agree. I think that you know they needed that extra depth in the rotation, and they just don't have it right now. Like you say, maybe if they had added one of those guys, you'd feel better about their chances. But I mean, they have one of the toughest remaining schedules in Major League Baseball, and the teams that they're battling for that wild card spot have not tough schedules left. The Phillies have one of the easiest. The Braves have one of the easiest. The Reds have one of the easiest. I don't know about
Yeah,
the Cardinals. I'd assume there's pretty easy being in that division, but um,
let's
the
see.
Dodgers' schedule is not too bad. Obviously, being 7 games behind the Dodgers for that number one wild card spot right now is probably, they're probably not going to make that. But definitely very interesting look right now at how things are going in the National League, and it's going to be a very 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 interesting chase because you've really got teams in each of the 3 divisions in the National League that could snag that wild card spot. So it's going to be an interesting look through the rest of the season.
Yeah, it is, and we'll be sure to definitely keep you guys apprised of it all. But it's definitely not what I had even expected maybe 2 weeks ago that we'd be sitting here having this conversation about. There's kind of a real possibility even that the Padres might not make the playoffs even. Um,
Yeah.
it's and that's absolutely just wild to me. Especially as a Dodger fan, seeing this Padres team 18 times a year, you would never have even thought about that. But
Yeah, and one more point here before we move on to um, our players of the week. This past month, the Yankees made up 9 games on the Red Sox. So we've got over a month left in the season. Think about that, and then think of what could maybe happen outside of that. I mean, you've got the Padres are 11 games behind the Giants. That might be insurmountable, but 7 games behind the Dodgers. I don't know if that's completely insurmountable. They got a lot of games left against them. The Dodgers. I don't think are going to lose that many games, but you never know. You had the Braves were 5 games behind the Mets in the division lead at the All Star break or at the trade deadline, and they are now 3.5 games ahead of the Mets. Now that we're in, like 3 weeks later. So, um, it's just one of those things where a lot of these teams are, one team going on a hot streak and another team going on a cold streak could be all it takes. And you start losing some games, get into a tough part of your schedule, struggle a little bit, have the bounce the wrong way, and you never know when things could turn. And that's what makes it so interesting this time of year. And so pretty much any of these teams we've been discussing could somehow make the playoffs. So
yeah, and just to for sure fill it in, the Yankees did beat the Red Sox,
yes.
so they are now tied for that wild card spot.
Yes, that's pretty remarkable. A 9 game differential.
And it
Um,
actually, as of looking at this right now, it puts the Yankees in the second wild card spot over Boston.
yes, so I believe because of winning percentage right now, but obviously, winning percentage is gonna flip. But it's gonna not be if you have the same amount of wins or the same record above 500 as the other team, then that's not gonna be the case at the end. It'll be a tie, but Um, thank God. It's not like last year where if you play 2 more games, and the team you win one more and you lose one more than they do, you get the playoff spot because the other team didn't play as many games. Like it's not gonna be that one of those cases this year, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Definitely some interesting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and jump over to our players of the week and then wrap this show up. So, who do you have for your hitter this week?
So my hitter of the week is one of the key contributors. We had talked about the fact that the Atlanta Braves had made up all these games and are now, they're 2 outs in the ninth. So they're about to be another game above 500 and another game ahead of the Philly, a half game further ahead of the Phillies, depending on what they do tonight. But my player of the week is Dansby Swanson. He hadn't done too much tonight, but over the past week, he has been very, very, very good. His past 7 days, he has hit 4 home runs, kind of the big thing that stands out. He's hit well over 400. Um, the one thing that stood out to me when he was really struggling at the start of the year, and I was guilty of talking about how I thought he maybe even should be sent down. Like he was playing that bad for the first 2 months of the season. Um, it's been the strikeouts, and he had at one point he had an over 30% strikeout rate over his last 32 plate appearances. Before tonight, he'd struck out one time tonight, but before tonight, over his last 32 plate appearances, he had 0 strikeouts in the last week. And to me, that's a key for Dansby because he's got the batted ball profile. He hits the ball the opposite way. He hits the ball hard. He's got home run power. He hits over the fence sometimes. He is a guy who, if he stops striking out, he can really be good. And that's the way he's been. He's a great defender at shortstop, made some good plays there. Um, he's a guy who is playing extremely well right now. He's really one of the primary reasons the Atlanta Braves have turned it around to become the first place team in that division.
Yeah, and we talked about him earlier in this year when he was struggling, and I had said that we knew Dansby wasn't as bad as what he was doing, and he can be an extremely streaky hitter. Kind of what you're seeing right here, but he's a top 10 shortstop in baseball in my eyes, when he plays up to his capabilities. Maybe he wasn't doing that earlier this year, but like you said, big week for him to have 0 strikeouts and 32 plate appearances. If he's able to, cut his strikeouts down at all, it would make him so much of a better player. And big time for the Braves because they need somebody to step up and kind of carry the burden offensively now that they don't have Acuna. And Solaire's been decent since he came over. I don't know quite how Duvall has been since he came back.
Yeah,
Um,
Duval's hit a lot of home runs, but he's sub 200 hitter right now. But the big thing's been the infield. The Braves have a shot, and I don't know if they'll get it done because it would take a lot. But they have all four of their infielders, first base, second base, third base, and shortstop, have hit over 23 home runs this year. They have a shot at having all four infielders hitting 30 home runs, and I don't think that's ever happened.
yeah, I don't think so
So,
either.
yeah, and
And
Austin Riley hit another one tonight, so he's at 27, I believe.
yeah, and I was just about to mention Riley's been, he's been massive for this team this year. I mean, I don't think at the beginning of the year anybody could have seen this step for Austin Riley so far. That he had shown signs of it, but he hadn't been able to show the consistency of being able to keep it up, especially over a full season, let alone or a month, let alone a full season. So it's good for Riley this year, but good for Dansby this past week to kind of play up to that streaky level that we know he can play at.
Yeah, no doubt.
So
So,
for my hitter this week, I went with Matt Chapman from the Oakland A's. 30 plate appearances. He had hit 4 home runs, 10 runs, 6 RBIs, a 4.29 average, 600 on base. A big thing for me that I looked at was that he walked 30% of the time this week. You're talking about a guy who has like a career 10% walk rate. Walking 30% of the time is insane. 600 on base this week that's absolutely insane from a guy who has a career on base of 332. And the Oakland A's need Matt Chapman to be very, very good and help carry the load offensively because they don't have a bunch of star players. Marte's going to help them. Matt Olson's going to help them, but Matt Chapman's right there. He needs to be, one of the key cogs in that lineup, and he's kind of struggled so far this year. I mean, he's only hitting 224, a 319 on base, and only a 399 slugging so far this year. He you look at his WAR, it's 2.7, but that's carried a lot by his defensive numbers. He's one of the best defenders in baseball, and he's not quite playing up to the level of offensive side that we know Matt Chapman to be. So, a very good week for Matt Chapman this week.
Yeah, and not only the fact that all those points you said, but missing Ramon Laureano, he's got to step up because
Yeah.
they're not going to have him back this year, and he's also ineligible for the postseason. So Matt Chapman's got to step up and play like the player he's capable of, and he's been doing that over those past 7 games. You're absolutely right about that. So, but moving on to the pitchers, and we'll look at your pitcher first. How about that?
Yeah, so my pitcher, you mentioned him a little bit earlier, and that's Tristan McKenzie. Usually we like to try and cherry pick people who have had 2 start weeks. Um, a lot of his numbers are carried by what he did in one of the starts, and that was take basically a perfect game. I believe it was into the 7th, or was it through 7?
It was in the he hit through 7 7 2/3.
Okay, so yeah,
He
seven
got
and
hit
two
2 outs in the
thirds
eighth. Was just one hit he gave up.
of perfect ball this week. The big thing with McKenzie has always been command. If he has command, he's almost unhittable, like we saw in one of those starts. If he loses his command, he's very hittable and just walks pretty much everybody on the side. But this is kind of another testament to the Cleveland kind of pitching regime they have, or you know, development that they have there. They are just able to find guys like this. In his 14 starts this week, a K per 9 of 10.24, and it was a really good week on his walks, under 1 walk per 9. Had a 129 ERA, a 225 FIP this week. Um, just McKenzie, like I said, it's a big thing if with his command, and he had that command working this week, and show the potential of what he can be.
Yeah, no doubt. Tristan McKenzie's a very good player, pitcher when he's own, and he's also young, so he could be a guy that in the future, when Cleveland gets back healthy, across the board, with Bieber being back next year, and with other guys, Plesac and Savali, and some of those young guys coming back and getting on track and being healthy. They could be scary again in the future with that pitching rotation, but the guy that I picked this week was I wanted to give some love. It would have been very easy to pick Corbin Burns, who just threw a freaking masterpiece in his start. He only had one start, but he's also pitching tonight. And last check had a no hitter going in the 6th inning. So Corbin
That's
Burns
over
might be
now.
it's over now. Yeah,
Yeah.
he wasn't his best outing. He had only 3 strikeouts through like 5 innings or something. So it's not Corbin Burns' best outing, but um, the guy I went with threw a complete game shutout, and that is very impressive. Although it was his only start, and that's Adam Wainwright. How about Adam Wainwright? He had complete game shutout, 7 strikeouts. Not the most overpowering shutout, but he's been really good this year. I didn't really realize how good Adam Wainwright had been. He has a 3.26 ERA on the season. He actually pitched today to 6 innings of 2-run ball. Um, but he has a 3.26 ERA, and his peripherals don't totally back that up, but they back it up pretty well. A 3.72 FIP and a 3.82 xFIP on the season. Adam Wainwright's actually been really good. The Cardinals have to be excited that they brought him back this year after him considering retirement in the offseason. But this is the best Adam Wainwright's pitched in several years. You go back to really since his Achilles injury he had in 2015. Ever since then, he has not pitched at this level over a full season. Maybe you could say last year you had a 3.15 ERA, but that was a super shortened season, small sample size. His peripherals didn't back it up at all. This year, I mean, his peripherals back it up. This is the lowest FIP he's had in a season since 2015, which was only 28 innings. So 2014 being the last time he did this over like a full season. So good for Adam Wainwright. It's nice to see him pitch really well. He's a fun guy. I remember he was very, very, very good on the broadcast in the playoffs last year. So I've been kind of pulling for him since then. And it's great to see him finish his career with a fantastic season that he's had this year.
Yeah, did he actually announce that this would be his
He,
last year? I
he
don't
has
remember if he did or not.
he has not announced it, but I
Okay.
would assume it probably is. They had to basically beg him to come back this
I
year.
I don't know,
So
and he's playing like this.
you
He
never
might
know.
he
Yeah, I mean,
might
he might come
decide.
back for age 40. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, he's
I'd be a little bit
pitching.
surprised if he does, but he might do it. But
I
if he
mean,
does go out this year, what a year to go out on.
yeah, if he does, I mean, the way he's pitching right now, I mean, it would easily, he could easily turn around and get another very good contract. He doesn't need it, but Wainwright, like you said, he's one of the good guys. I don't think there's anybody that I've ever talked to or met that kind of hated Adam Wainwright. In the baseball community, at least, he's just been a nice, fun guy. He's kind of under the radar. He just goes about his business a lot. But like you said, he really opened my eyes with his broadcasting in the playoffs this year. And I thought for sure after that and the way he absolutely killed it, that he was, going to retire and just kind of go to that role. But it's good to see him that he came back and he's being, really successful. And like you said, one of his best seasons since 2014, 2015, even. So
Yeah.
good for Adam Wainwright.
Yeah, and he has the highest strikeout rate he's had in a season since 2012. Outside of a 40 innings he pitched in 2018 before injury. So out of a full season, best since 2012 in his strikeout department, and it's really close to what he did in 2012. So just to put this into perspective, what he's doing at age 39, very impressive.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. But I think that's gonna wrap up our show for this week. We'll come back next week. We'll have a little bit more. We'll talk about the Little League Classic game, hit on some other series, and then see what happens. I think that there's what was I looking at earlier that was going to happen within this week? I totally forgot. Sorry about that. I had something on my mind that I wanted to mention. Looking forward to this week, and I lost it. So, you got anything that you wanna wrap up on?
I don't think so. Just excited to see what the next week brings us. These pennant chases are going to be really, really interesting. Definitely plan on watching not only my team, but also the national broadcasts over the next week or two. When big teams are playing. I know you got some of those big series coming up. I'll definitely be paying attention to the Phillies Padres this weekend. The Giants play some real big games coming up. It's going to be a very entertaining rest of the season, and we'll see what happens. I'm excited, and we'll keep you updated. We'll talk about kind of what happened in those featured series that we talked about this week. We'll talk about those next week and can bring you some more and take a look at these pennant races. And middle of August, we're getting down to the nitty gritty time, and before long we'll be talking about the playoffs. So it's a very, very fun year so far, and yeah, hopefully it's just going to keep going.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, thank you guys for tuning into this episode of the Bat Flip Podcast, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks for tuning in.